The situation at Manchester United is collapsing faster than anyone imagined.
What I'm seeing at that football club is not Manchester United. The club at the minute is completely broken, and I don't recognise it.
Ruben Amorim, once seen as the bold new architect to rebuild Old Trafford, now looks like a man completely out of ideas.
Guys, you have I understand that, and I accept. So it's not a record that you should have in Manchester United. There are a lot of things that you have no idea what happened during these months, but I accept that. But I'm not going to change. When I want to change my philosophy, I will change. If not, you have to change.
34 points from 33 Premier League games, a humiliating 15th place finish. And after a summer transfer window worth more than £200 million, United find themselves sitting 14th in the table.
And it was carried out by Alta.
Numbers don't lie, and these numbers scream crisis.
Everything about what happens to Manchester United, everything, is utterly appalling. And he needs to be sacked. I've said it before, it's horrible to come on national radio and say he needs to be sacked. I can't feel sorry for these people because they're taking £8 million home, right? Yeah. But the job is clearly too big for him.
The main problem, Amorim refuses to adapt. His rigid system does not suit the players at his disposal, and instead of evolving, he doubles down. Talented names like Marcus Rashford have been cast aside, while youngsters like Kobbie Mainoo remain benched, suffocated by a philosophy that clearly doesn't work.
Ruben, it's another game where Kobbie Mainoo will stay on the bench. I think you've said before that he needs to increase the rhythm, increase the pace of his game. Is that why he hasn't had any minutes yet? And what do you mean by that?
No, because he's fighting for the position now with Bruno.
The atmosphere has turned toxic, players committing basic errors, confidence shattered. Mistakes that somehow only happen when they pull on the famous red shirt. And so, as the spiral continues, Ineos are preparing for the inevitable. If Amorim cannot turn things around quickly, his seat will no longer be safe. Behind closed doors, two names have already surfaced. Gareth Southgate, trusted by the Ineos hierarchy, and the other, a surprising yet fascinating candidate, Xavi Hernández.
Xavi Hernández, as I also get many questions on Xavi and Manchester United, that Xavi is studying Premier League. Xavi is monitoring the Premier League, and Xavi would go immediately to Man United. Even without European football, he would go immediately to Premier League. So he would love Premier League.
Yes, Xavi, the Barcelona legend, a coach who embodies the Cruyffist school, a man with Barca DNA running through his veins. Pressure, possession, position, the three Ps that define his footballing philosophy.
No, el tema de la exigencia también, ¿no? El Barça, yo siempre digo, y lo digo con argumento, no lo digo para compararme ni con otro club ni nada, lo digo porque lo vivo así. La exigencia de Can Barça no es solo ganar. O sea, en otros clubes, sin nombrar, es ganar. Aquí es ganar, jugar bien, ser mejor.
At Barcelona, this system won him La Liga. At United, with creative minds like Bruno Fernandes and Kobbie Mainoo, explosive forwards like Benjamin Šeško, Brian Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha, and young defenders like De Ligt and Lenny Yoro to anchor the press, the potential for a balanced, aggressive and modern United is very real. But here's the tension. Is this a masterstroke waiting to happen, or pure madness? Could Xavi Hernández be the man to finally reconnect Manchester United with an identity? Or will he become the next victim of the cursed football heritage chair that has consumed Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, Ten Hag and now Amorim? Before we dive into what Xavi could bring to Old Trafford, we first need to dissect Amorim's downfall, because only by understanding why he has failed can we judge whether Xavi could truly succeed. Football is a numbers game, and every single number is stacked against Ruben Amorim at Manchester United. It's simple. Win more than you lose, score more than you concede, make more good calls than bad ones. Amorim is failing on every count. His beloved 3-4-3 system has turned into a tactical trap. Instead of freeing his players, it's suffocating them. 17 Premier League defeats in 33 games, only 34 points collected. An average of 1.03 per match, a win rate of just 27.3%. That makes him, statistically, the worst United manager in the Premier League era. Even David Moyes, who lasted less than a year, managed 50%.
He's been successful, but that's not good enough, is it?
Well, it's Sunderland next, and then it's the international break. Why do you think he is still in a job?
I think he's still in a job because I think the powers that be and Manchester United have made that many mistakes so far and decisions that they've made on and off the pitch that they almost don't want to admit right now that they've made another. And this has been a disaster for Manchester United, but also Ruben Amorim. What he did at Sporting Lisbon was fantastic. You know, he looked like the next big thing as a manager, but bringing a manager like that in terms of the system that he played, I don't think ever really suited the club of the traditions of Manchester United. And the quicker Manchester United make the decision on the manager, I think it's better for everybody, because as I said, it's been a disaster for club, but also the manager, and we're only waiting for the inevitable, I think. Unfortunately, as Duncan's just said, you don't want to see people lose their jobs, but this has to end as quickly as possible.
In total, Amorim has led United in 49 games across all competitions. The balance: 19 wins, 21 defeats, 95 goals scored, 95 conceded, 0 consistency, no back-to-back wins in the league, no away win since March against a relegated Leicester City. And to crown the embarrassment, the first defeat in United's 147-year history against a fourth-tier side, losing to Grimsby Town in the Carabao Cup. Behind closed doors, Ineos executives Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox face a brutal truth. There are no results to justify Amorim's stay. The only thing keeping him in the job is the lack of a ready-made replacement. Names like Xavi Hernández, Gareth Southgate, Oliver Glasner, Fabian Hutzler and Andoni Iraola are floating in the media. Yet the board insists Amorim still has their support. But everyone knows results are the only currency that matters. Amorim himself points to other problems. Chaos inside Old Trafford, with mass layoffs damaging morale, poor decisions by past managers, and failed signings he never asked for like Manuel Ugarte or Joshua Zirkzee. He wanted an experienced goalkeeper but got 23-year-old Senna Lammens from Antwerp. Unbelievably, he doesn't play. He demanded athleticism in midfield, but United actually weakened their options by loaning out Toby Collier without replacing him. Still, there's no hiding behind excuses. United spent over £200 million last summer on Bryan Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha and Benjamin Šeško. For all the talk of mitigating factors, the numbers are damning, and they don't lie. Now Amorim heads into his 50th match in charge against Sunderland. Another poor result, and it could very well be his last game at Old Trafford. If Xavi Hernández wants to change the negative course that has swallowed so many United managers, starting with Ruben Amorim, he must avoid the same marked mistakes. Every good manager needs a vision and philosophy, but adapting to the strengths of the squad is part of the job. Amorim, however, refused to move away from his rigid 3-4-3. His stubbornness became his only identity. On his very first press conference, he proudly declared, "There is no second way." Since then, the disastrous results haven't forced him to rethink. That sums up his problem. A captain unwilling to change course while his ship sails straight into an iceberg.
I play my way, and I'm going to play my will until I want to change.
He had more than enough time for the players to adapt to his system. He had a full pre-season, plenty of weeks with no European football, yet his message never landed. United kept playing predictable football. Rivals figured them out quickly. The ball always forced wide, repeating the same patterns. When you watch United with possession, it's obvious how often they go to the wings, looking for the same passing routine. Opponents stop it by defending with a back five, matching the wide overloads that Amorim relies on. What used to be a 2v1 becomes a simple 2v2, and the routine collapses. By pressing man-to-man and blocking the flanks, rivals nullify United. Many times they even ignore the middle, focusing only on blocking the wings, and United can't adjust. With only two midfielders centrally, United are outnumbered once the press is broken. Opponents establish dominance, control the ball, and United lose control of the match. Tactically, Xavi must reset this broken model. The Premier League is not a place for predictable systems, especially with the current United squad. Then comes the second major sin, refusing to play the best players. Casemiro's suspension after the Chelsea red card gave Amorim a choice between Kobbie Mainoo and Manuel Ugarte. Once again, he ignored Mainoo, the academy gem and one of the most talented players in the squad, and chose Ugarte, who lacks the Englishman's technical level. Nobody was surprised. Mainoo has never been valued under Amorim because he doesn't fit into the rigid system. That is why Mainoo asked for a loan before the transfer window closed. He doesn't want to leave United permanently, but he knows there is no future for him while Amorim remains.
If they played 4-2-3-1, I think you've got all the players playing in positions that they're super comfortable in. You've got two centre midfielders out of three, probably, in Casemiro, Ugarte and Kobbie Mainoo to play in there, right? And then you've got three across the front. Anyone from Ahmad, Mbeumo, Cunha, Mason Mount, even Mainoo, all of them and Bruno can all play in their positions anywhere across that front line, and they're all happy as Larry anywhere. And Šeško up front. But you've got Bruno, who actually can be in the 10 role where he has produced astronomical numbers consistently since he's been at the football club. That I don't think it's rocket science. I just think everyone's probably looking at it and thinking the same thing.
And he is not the only one. Marcus Rashford was forced out. Alejandro Garnacho was sidelined, and Rasmus Højlund was pushed away despite his willingness to fight for a place. It's shocking to think that United are letting their most talented names shine far away from Old Trafford. This cannot continue. Xavi must avoid this exodus and bring the best out of them. It's unthinkable that Senna Lamens doesn't play, unthinkable that Mainu doesn't get the minutes he deserves, unthinkable that Rashford, Antony or Højlund have to leave to succeed. Another crucial mistake is how Amorim has destroyed the dressing room atmosphere. At first he said he believed in his players. Weeks later, after the loss to Brighton in January, he called them.
We are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. And I know that you...
Since then, negativity has defined his tenure. His press conferences don't inspire, they demoralise. He constantly points at the weight of the shirt, blaming history as a burden. But instead of protecting his players, his words only made them collapse further. After the Grimsby humiliation, he even admitted that the players spoke very loudly and hinted at leaving.
Change, and you are not going to change 22 players again.
He later confessed he thought about resigning in February, but after Brentford, he changed tone, saying he would not leave. His indecision and contradictions leave the squad with no trust and no stability. If the club want to restore positivity, his exit is the only way. And yet, Amorim keeps defending himself. He insists his system is not the problem. In some moments, that's true. Andre Onana and Altay Bayındır gifting goals from corners, Harry Maguire losing his duel with Igor Thiago at Brentford, or being outpaced by Haaland in the derby, those aren't tactical flaws. Nor are Bruno Fernandes's missed penalties. But when the same errors repeat over and over under one coach, the responsibility always comes back to him. This is the football heritage that Xavi Hernández must avoid at all costs. Rigidity, wasted talent, negative energy, and blaming players for everything. These are the sins that dragged Amorim into failure. And if Xavi is to succeed, he must break this toxic cycle from day one. Now comes the real question. Is Xavi Hernández truly the right man to take over Manchester United? His managerial career began in Qatar with Al Sadd, where he won 7 trophies, before stepping into the biggest challenge of his life, FC Barcelona. From November 2021 until his departure, he coached 142 matches, won 89, drew 24, and lost 29, a 68% win rate. His team scored 274 goals and conceded 155. On paper, the numbers look strong, but when you scratch beneath the surface, the story changes. Xavi only managed to lift 2 trophies with Barca, La Liga and the Spanish Super Cup in the 2022/23 season.
¡Barça! ¡Vamos! ¡Campeones! ¡Culones!
For a club built on glory, those numbers felt light, and while he did bring back some form of identity possession, pressing, positional play, the titles did not follow as many expected. His journey at Barca was marked by both flashes of brilliance and painful failures. Early on, he delivered a 0-4 win in El Clásico at the Santiago Bernabéu, a result that electrified the fan base. Yet, in his first full season, he crashed out of the Spanish Super Cup against Real Madrid, the Copa del Rey to Athletic Bilbao, and the Europa League to Eintracht Frankfurt. La Liga was lost comfortably to Madrid. The Champions League also became his nightmare. Twice in a row, Barca were dumped out at the group stage. And when relegated to the Europa League, his side was eliminated by Manchester United, with Marcus Rashford punishing him directly. His fortunes shifted in 2023. Barca beat Real Betis and then Real Madrid to win the Spanish Super Cup. And by May, they had secured La Liga with 4 games to spare. That was his golden season. It looked like Barca had finally found stability under him, but the 2023/24 season brought brutal reminders of the gap still left to close. A heavy defeat to PSG in the Champions League, a crushing loss to Real Madrid in the Supercopa. And a campaign that, while decent, left no silverware. Yes, Xavi restored an identity and made Barca competitive again. Yes, he rebuilt a broken dressing room and created a team capable of fighting Real Madrid head-to-head after years of collapse. But the hard truth remains. The results were not enough for a club of Barca's size. This is the balance sheet of Xavi Hernández, a coach who preaches Cruyff's 3 Ps, but whose execution hasn't yet delivered dominance on the European stage. For United fans, the question is crystal clear. Do you see a saviour here, or just another gamble that could end in disappointment? Xavi's attacking philosophy and elite playing pedigree would make him an appealing candidate for a club desperately searching for identity. His conviction in offensive football is simple. The more time you keep the ball, the closer you are to victory.
Lo más importante, lo más bonito Y lo más precioso del fútbol es tener el balón, e ir al ataque y dominar el partido.
But unlike Amorim, who rigidly clings to his 3-4-3 even when it suffocates his players, Xavi respects other styles of play. He knows matches have different phases, and teams must adapt, pressing without the ball, defending in a mid-block, or switching structures depending on the opponent. At Barcelona, he moved away from Amorim's one-track mentality. Yes, he flirted with a 3-4-3 in Qatar and early on at Barca, but his sides mainly alternated between a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1, and even a 4-1-4-1. These systems delivered an average of 63% possession per game. That flexibility is precisely what United lack today, a manager capable of adjusting tactics instead of forcing square pegs into round holes. Xavi's idea of building from the back would also fit this squad. His defenders open wide, with full-backs positioned high up the pitch, often above the midfielders, to stretch the field. It means players like Lenny Yoro or Matthijs de Ligt could circulate the ball calmly, while Kobbie Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes become natural reference points in midfield.
How creative was Bruno Fernandes in the second goal of Manchester United? As we can see here, Bruno was scanning the field to look at his teammates and where they're standing. He asked for the ball and didn't get it, but he kept running and didn't give up on that attack this easy. He scans the field one more time and tracked where Kobbie Mainoo is. After that, Bruno Fernandes scans the field for the third time in the same attack to see how far Kobbie Mainoo is from the box, while he positioned himself around the box and asked Garnacho to pass him the ball. Then, with one touch, Bruno Fernandes was able to pass the ball to Kobbie Mainoo to assist him in the
Mainoo would act as the first receiver, setting the tempo with short passes or launching direct balls into the attackers, while Bruno thrives between the lines, breaking defensive blocks with vision and precision. Here lies the contrast. Amorim suffocates creativity with predictability. Xavi encourages it through constant movement and adaptation. And that change of philosophy could unlock United's attack in terrifying ways. Think about Amad Diallo. Under Xavi, his ability to drift inside and combine in tight spaces would be fully valued, turning him into a creative spark rather than a bench option. Bryan Mbeumo, with his explosive pace and willingness to press, would thrive in the high-possession, high-pressure model, becoming both a wide threat and a relentless presser. Matheus Cunha, a forward who loves to drop deep and link play, would finally find a system that rewards his movement and vision rather than punishing it. And Benjamin Šeško, the young jewel, would be the ultimate weapon, a striker fed with endless service, able to exploit spaces created by the rotations of Bruno, Mainoo, and the wide men. This is where philosophies collide. Amorim's United look trapped, predictable and fragile. A Xavi-led United could look fluid, aggressive, and suffocating a team that finally plays to the strengths of its talent. That's the bright side of Xavi Hernández, the man who took over Barcelona in the middle of financial collapse, reputational scandal with the Caso Negreira, and sporting chaos in the post-Messi era. He gave the team back its identity, he made them compete with Real Madrid again, and in flashes he delivered some of the most beautiful football Barca fans had seen in years. But there's also a very big but. Xavi was also the manager who oversaw some of the darkest nights in Barcelona's modern history. He was the man in charge when Barca crashed out of the Champions League group stage in 2021/22, something that hadn't happened for 20 years, not since the 2000/01 season.
Oficial, el Barça jugará la Europa League después de que el Inter de Milán haya ganado, no hay milagro, al Victoria Pilsen. Para mí la causa, más allá de que creo que el Barça tuvo mala suerte en las lesiones, mala suerte entre comillas, pero la causa principal para mí es que el Barça en el momento clave de este inicio de temporada.
That same campaign brought humiliation in the Copa del Rey, a 4-0 defeat to Real Madrid at the Santiago Bernabeu in the semi-final. In Europe, it was even worse. Barcelona were eliminated from the Europa League by Eintracht Frankfurt, a side far weaker on paper in one of the most embarrassing nights the Camp Nou has witnessed. In La Liga 2021/22, Barca did finish second, but 13 points behind Real Madrid. The numbers said it all. 21 wins, but 17 games where they failed to take 3 points. Add the European failures, and the word hanging over the season was clear: crisis. The following season brought déjà vu. In the Champions League 2022/23, once again, Barca finished third in the group. Once again, they dropped to the Europa League. And once again, they were knocked out, this time by Manchester United, with Marcus Rashford leading the charge. Even in 2024, when things looked brighter, Xavi couldn't break the ceiling. Barcelona finally got out of the group stage for the first time under him and reached the Champions League quarter-finals, but they were eliminated by PSG. The 1-2 defeat at home saw Xavi lose his composure on the touchline, ending with a red card.
I presume it's because he's kicked that
Then came the Liga blow. On 4th May 2024, Girona humiliated Barca with a brutal 4-2 comeback, and with it handed the title to Real Madrid. They've made more points? Congratulations to Real Madrid, Xavi said afterwards. His words felt like surrender. And that's the question mark with Xavi Hernández. It's not the football, it's the leadership. Time and again, when things went wrong, he pointed the finger outwards. He blamed the grass. He blamed the sun. He blamed referees. He even said rivals didn't want to play football, as if that explained why his team couldn't win.
A mí se me critica por todo, o sea, no me molesta nada. A partir de ahí, ¿qué quieres saber? ¿Si me molesta el sol? Sí, o sea, no voy a cambiar de opinión. Por más memes que me hagan, o sea, el sol nos molesta. El campo seco no nos beneficia, ni a nosotros ni al espectáculo, ni al Getafe. Si la pregunta es para aquí, que la pregunta es ¿por qué no regó el campo? Que le pregunten al entrenador del Getafe por qué no se regó el campo y por qué estaba más alto de lo habitual. No voy a parar hasta que haya una norma con exactitud, porque en todos los deportes hay una norma por la superficie. ¿Por qué no?
It's eerily similar to Ruben Amorim's downfall, only Amorim blames his players, while Xavi blamed external forces. Two sides of the same coin, a refusal to take responsibility. And the final straw came with his statement that Barcelona couldn't compete financially with Real Madrid. For the board, that was unacceptable. His departure became inevitable. So, is Xavi Hernández to Manchester United a masterstroke or pure madness? For us, it feels closer to a masterstroke. Yes, he carries scars from his Barcelona days, but scars are what make a leader mature. Xavi has been through crisis, scandal, and pressure in one of the biggest clubs in world football, and he came out stronger. At Barcelona, he learned what works, what doesn't, and most importantly, how to handle the weight of expectation. That maturity is exactly what United need right now. His philosophy of possession, pressure, and position would be revolutionary at Old Trafford. It fits perfectly with the profiles already in the squad. Bruno Fernandes controlling the rhythm, Mainu anchoring the midfield, Mbeumo and Cunha adding explosiveness, and Sesko leading the line. Respecting processes is key, and it's sad to see what's happening with Ruben Amorim. Many trusted him, many wanted him to succeed, but his stubbornness, his refusal to change course, is steering this United straight into an iceberg. If the ship is going down, the captain has to turn the wheel. Amorim hasn't, and that's where Xavi comes in as a real option. He's not perfect, he's not without question marks, but he represents something United have been craving for over a decade: a clear identity, a brave system, and a coach who knows how to manage giants. If Ineos decide to make the change, Xavi Hernández could be the man to finally give the Red Devils a football they can believe in again.